Thanks for logging on to Wayne.com for another edition of Inside the Zone. We're talking Komets hockey with Komets beat reporter Blake Sebring, and we'll get to the games last week. There were only two of them.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we do, and there's not much coming up this week, at least not in terms of being played here in Fort Wayne. But some really interesting news coming across today. Konstantin Shafranov joining the Komets as an assistant coach. We'll talk about his role, but first off, if you're a young forward, who better to learn from than this guy? What does he bring as far as his knowledge and what he'll be able to relay to some of these young guys, Blake?
Well, I wrote today he's got the best resume of any Comet since the last 4 decades. 2 Olympics, 7 World Championships, 2 rings. I mean, he's played in the NHL. He's played in the AHL for a long time. He's played in every level with the Komets just about. I mean, he's done everything, and he's always played the same, too. He's always been able to maintain his level of excellence no matter what league he's played in.
95, 96, his first year with the Komets. He was IHL Rookie of the Year back in the day. When we've talked about him before on this show, you mentioned that his stick handling, his playmaking ability, really second to none. Do you believe second to none maybe in Komets history? Up there.
Oh, that's hard to say because you look at like Len Thornton and Reggie Primo, some of them.
I'm putting you on the spot, man.
Yeah, I never got to see them play except in a little bit of film highlights, so that's hard to say. That's why I said the last 40 years.
Okay,
how's that?
That's okay.
You could throw Terry McDougal in there too. I mean, there's a lot of really good stick handlers. Shaffy could hold his own with any of them. How's that?
Okay, that's fair enough. What he does on the ice, though, it seems second nature when we saw him as a player.
Exactly.
So how much can he teach other kids? Because his vision and some of the things he did, you either have it or you don't, I think. And it kind of an intrinsic quality.
Yeah.
And how can he relay some of those things that may have been second nature to him to these young guys?
I think he'll have some drills that will kind of teach them and make them more confident maybe in their stick handling, that kind of thing. I know that whenever Shaffy skated in the summer at Canlan with the guys, they were all like shocked that here's this 45-year-old out here tooling us, just making us look bad because he's still got the hands. And the thing about Shaffy was he was never the biggest guy, the fastest guy. He's probably the smartest guy. But he always ended up right where the puck was going to bounce around the net. And he was never a guy who took a lot of beating in front. He just kind of popped into the picture. It's like he had teleportation devices. He knew the puck was going to go where, that kind of thing. And I think if he can teach them a little bit, like how many times have you seen the Komets, they're in front of the net waiting for a rebound, or they're right in the goalie's face. They don't move. The puck never bounces there. It always bounces 5 to 10 feet out. There's never anybody there. Mm-hmm. Shaffy was always in that spot.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he affects it. But I want to talk about his role because he'll be at practice. He'll be, it sounds like, working mostly with the forwards, but he won't be on the bench during the game. And when Gary Graham came on as the head coach, he didn't really want an assistant coach. So talk about the evolution of Konstantin coming in, his role, and how comfortable I think Gary will be with it, and how comfortable this team and this ownership group will be going forward with it.
Well, Shaffy's been talked about internally on the Komets since last summer as an assistant coach possibility. He's also helping coach a junior team in town, so that's why he's not going to be able to be there every game because they go out of town on the weekends for their tournaments and stuff, and so he won't be around on the weekends more often than not. But Shaffy's been hanging around the team since he goes to all the games, and when he is there, he's always willing to talk to players or talk to Gary or David Franke or whatever if they ask him about what he thinks about things. He's not one to necessarily volunteer, but if they ask, he'll tell them what he thinks. Normally,
the Komets, it's like a 5-year period before you get your jersey in the rafters. They've waived that essentially with Guy Dupuis, Nick Boucher as well. I imagine Colin Chalk's number will be up in the rafter pretty soon. I've read some articles that you've written in the past talking about some of the guys from this recent golden era of Komets hockey. David Huckalo is a guy you mentioned. You think maybe his number should be considered.
Should be considered, yes.
But Shaffy, will it be too long before we see his name in the rafters, you think?
That's hard because part of it with Shaffy was he would come in and out a couple times. Like one year he played 20 games. If he had played the whole year, probably no doubt he'd be up there. But he was kind of like in and out, and he left in 2010 to go to the World Championships. He didn't get his 3rd ring that year. They brought in Hodgman again. That's hard. I still think you've got to get Terry McDougal up there as soon as humanly possible. And then then you go with, you've got Chalker and Sims still. Both of them definitely deserve to be up there. And I think you got to wonder, I mean, how many do you want up there?
Right.
You know, you've really got to think about it, because you'll have 20 guys pretty soon. And, you know,
where's the cutoff?
Where's the cutoff? What are the standards? How do you determine that kind of thing? You know, how do you determine it?
Well, because
really what you've done with putting in, you know, Chuck Adamson played 3 years, Nick played 5, I think, maybe 6. You know, you didn't just open it up for other goalies. You know, you've opened it up now for other guys who played 3 years or 5 years and say, well, I played more than they did. You know, I mean, I played more games than Boucher, you could say. I mean, you've really opened it up that way.
Well, like a guy like Bertram, who was here for, you know,
but there's guys
periods.
like John Goodwin and older guys, Roger Masonov, Norm Wazlowski, guys who were here a lot longer. Ron Leaf, Doug Baldwin, or Dale Baldwin. I mean, you have guys up and down the line now who are suddenly back in play.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where the cutoff is.
Yeah,
because
and that's strictly an ownership thing too. It's not anything that the media gets to vote on or has a say in or anything like that either.
Well, regardless of how it turns out, Shaffy was great to watch while he was here, and I think will be a big addition to this team. Especially those forwards are going to love to learn from a guy like him.
Well, they better. I mean, if they don't, that's their fault, their problem. You know, I mean, you have a guy with this resume, and there's nothing I can learn from him. It's like, well, how stupid are you then? You know, really. I mean, if you're looking away, if you're not taking advantage of this resource, that's a big you problem.
Yeah, definitely will be.